All right, the Environmental Protection Agency has a new administrator, finally. On Thursday, the Senate confirmed Trump's pick, Andrew Wheeler, to run the agency that protects the nation's environment and, in turn, your health. So, who is he? All right, let's take a look. Andrew Wheeler began his D.C. career in environmental law at the Environmental Protection Agency during President George H.W. Bush's administration. All right, Wheeler then spent 6 years working in different roles on the Senate Committee on the Environment and Public Works. He also served as a longtime aide to Republican Senator James Inhofe from Oklahoma, a state well known for its oil production. And in case you forgot, Inhofe once rebutted climate change on the Senate floor using a snowball.
In case we have forgotten, because we keep hearing that 2014 has been the warmest year on record, I asked the chair, you know what this is? It's a snowball. And that's just from outside here. So it's very, very cold out.
Oh, my God, it's cold out in winter and there's a snowball. There must not be any climate change. We have had this discussion before, right? Right? You remember me saying climate and weather are two different things. Anyway, back to Wheeler. We're going to talk about climate and weather in a second. But back to Wheeler. When he left Congress, he became a lobbyist for the coal industry, including Murray Energy, a corporation that says it produces about 76 million tons of coal per year. That's a little problem. All right, he also lobbied for a uranium mining firm, Energy Fuels Incorporated, that pushed to reduce the size of the historic Bears Ears National Monument in Utah. Okay, there's some context about why some folks are worried about Andrew Wheeler heading the NBC. Now, I want to continue the conversation with NBC News technology correspondent Jacob Ward. Jacob, look, in and of itself, coal is an industry, energy is an industry. They have lobbyists. Fine. Their goals do tend to be at odds with organizations like the EPA, which are designed to create regulations that keep companies from dumping stuff into the water, putting stuff into the air that is going to make it dangerous for us. These are just, they're not, it doesn't mean one's right and one's wrong. It's just these are entities that are at odds with each other.
That's right. I mean, if we assume that the American, system is working, then these are supposed to be two entities that fight against one another. I mean, the thing, Ali, about the EPA is it's very different from leading, the U.S. Department of Agriculture or even the Department of Labor, which, you might come in there and think, I'm gonna speed things up. Yeah. These are agencies that, are supposed to facilitate commerce on some level. But the EPA, like you say, is all about protecting us. It banned DDT. It is why we have unleaded gas in our cars. It invented sewage treatment plants. It does these things to protect people. It is not supposed to in any way be sort of facilitating commerce. So to have a guy who comes from the world of commerce to run it is a very, very different thing.
I'm a business guy, and I hear a lot of people complain about too much regulation. And on the face of it, I can look at some things and say, you know what, it's a little hard for small businesses. This is very different. Most Americans who think there's too much regulation don't tend to think it's about environmental protections.
That's right. I mean, you go back to, let's say 1969, right, the year before EPA was established. At that time, you had sewage running directly from cities into our rivers and streams and even into our drinking water at times, right? You had people filling up leaded gas. I mean, you had people putting lead paint in their houses where it would get into their children's brains because it went on smooth and was cheap to produce, right? I mean, the lesson of EPA, the reason it was created was there was not a good agency pushing back on the free market, which tends to bring in unproven and sometimes dangerous, scientifically dangerous things into the economy.
All right, so let's talk about Scott Pruitt. A lot of attention was paid to Scott Pruitt, and the reason he lasted in his job as long as he did, despite all the transgressions, is because he was doing, for Donald Trump, God's work. He was deregulating, right? Some of the biggest deregulating work is happening at the Department of Energy, at the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, and the EPA. If your goal is to get rid of regulation, EPA is ground zero for conservatives.
That's right. That's exactly right. I think the accepted wisdom about Andrew Wheeler is that he is Scott Pruitt who knows how to behave in public to get away with what he gets away with, right? His policy perspective is pretty much the same, but he just seems to be a lot smoother about not advertising it in public. He went before the confirmation hearing and basically said, I will take, that climate change is real, that he had a certainty of 8 or 9 out of 10 that it was real and so forth. And then he gets into EPA and he immediately appoints John Christie to, a climate denier, to a scientific advisory panel. So this is a guy who's going to say one thing and do another, but it's just the same stuff that Scott Pruitt did.
Hey, MSNBC fans, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down there and click on any of the videos here to watch the latest interviews and highlights. You can get more MSNBC for free every day with our newsletters. Just visit msnbc.com/newsletters to sign up now.